I'm Benny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And there's something in the air because it seems during this hour, things are starting to heat up in a lot of the cases and investigations that are going on in the stories and mysteries that we've been following. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about Kylen Shulte and Crystal Turner. They were newlyweds out in Utah, Moab, Utah, and they lived the van life. And this story we covered before Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito and told stories about their van life. This was the first time I ever heard that term, the van life. And, you know, they worked, but when it was time to go home, they would go home to a van and campsites. They weren't living a super traditional life. But tragically, in the beautiful, beautiful scenic Moab, Utah, they were both murdered. And the case has not been solved. Here's Lauren Steinbrecher from our affiliate KSTU with the background on the murder of this newlywed couple.
With positive vibes and nothing but joy in her smile, to Bridget Calvert, her niece Kylen Shulte was a ray of light.
Her having such a beautiful soul, to see it complemented with someone like Crystal, that they could really enjoy life and do it together.
Kylen and her wife, Crystal Turner, got married 4 months ago, loved living van life, and called the outdoors around Moab home. Many people knew the couple around town, which is why when the two were no-call, no-shows to work, it was clear something was wrong. The family, all out of state, say police searched, but it wasn't until an acquaintance drove out to the South Mesa area in the La Salle Mountains that they discovered the horrifying news.
She was on the phone with my brother when she pulled up to the car. She looks at the site and sees a body and tells my brother that he sent a text that said it's Kylen and Crystal.
The Grand County Sheriff's Office confirmed the two women were shot and killed, they believe, by someone else.
The evidence that we've gathered at this time, that's what it's led us to believe was an isolated incident.
That's all they can say for now. Bridget explained how friends told them the couple mentioned a man creeping them out near their campsite.
Saturday that they met up with, they said they were going to go move. They were going to pack up and move their campsite. That it was like he was still creeping them out.
The family is hoping someone can help them find answers.
What is very uncomforting is that there 100% is a murderer on the loose.
A murderer who took 2 lives away, but the family says will never put out the light, the love of Kylen and Crystal.
We're going to let their love light shine. That they had the most beautiful love, and that light is not stopping.
All right, folks, it's still unsolved. I'm putting the phone number up, Grand County Sheriff's Office, if you were in or around Moab, Utah, or maybe you heard something from a friend who was there, or a friend of a, doesn't matter. Here's the number, 435-259-8115, 435-259-8115. Now, you heard all this talk about a creepy guy. The creepy guy. Well, an affidavit for one of the search warrants that was executed in this case has been released, and there's some information on here. Extremely interesting, suspicious, makes you really think, you know, is this the creepy guy? Let me read part of that affidavit for you. Again, this is an affidavit for a search warrant just released. On the night of 8/17/21, Deputy Palmer made a traffic stop on a Subaru Outback driven by the subject. The subject was so unnerving that the veteran law enforcement officer decided not to write the speeding ticket as he did not want to take his eyes off of the subject. Wow. The deputy stated that the subject acted oddly for being pulled over for speeding, almost a combination of euphoria and that he had been caught doing something wrong. We were later told that the subject had been seen around town and that he routinely sleeps in his vehicle. One party stated that she had to make the subject leave her place of business as he makes unwanted advances towards women and makes them feel uneasy. Kind of creepy, right? The subject was asked if he knew Kylen, and he said he had seen her in the Moonflower Market regularly, where he was currently working, but had never worked with her. Unbelievable comment. The Moonflower Market, folks, that's where Kylen worked. That's where Brian Laundrie was seen slapping Gabby Petito, and now we've got the subject of this search warrant was working there as well. All right, what does this all mean? Let's bring in tonight's guests. Joining me in Salt Lake City, Utah, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King. Also in Salt Lake City, I guess they call it SLC, right, if you're in, right, Utah. Private investigator Jason Jensen is with us. He's also working this case. And joining us by phone, of course, also in Salt Lake City, Utah, ABC4 reporter Marcos Ortiz is with us. Great to have everyone here from Salt Lake City. I've been there many times, I think about 8 times, but many years ago. I'm just going to start with Marcos with ABC4. Marcos, thanks so much for joining us tonight. What are you hearing? What's the latest from investigators in terms of trying to find out who murdered this newlywed couple?
Well, it's hard to say what the investigators are thinking because they're still keeping this close to the vest. They're not talking publicly. I put in several calls today with the Grand County Sheriff's Department. No one has returned the call. And that's been their MO from the outset. They just will not release anything public. So we don't know what they're thinking or what's happening internally. But in talking with the cousin, Diane Brooke, she is the cousin of Crystal Turner. She's very pleased to have this information. It confirms her thoughts from the past, and that is that they are working this case. They're continuing to work this case, and she said that she'll wait. She'll wait a year. She'll wait 2 years. There's no hurry. What she wants is justice, and what she wants is to make sure that they get the right person for this crime.
Jason Jensen, private investigator, working this case. I'm reading this. The only thing that strikes me about it is if they work together, then it would seem that if there was a creepy guy hanging around, maybe they would have known who the creepy guy was if it's the subject of this search warrant. Tell me what you can tell me and what you know tonight, Jason.
Right. It's interesting that this guy picked up the job after Kylen is deceased, but was a regular there at the marketplace, because if you read through the affidavit for the warrant, he started on the 16th. Well, we know that this is the time frame that Kylen was missing, so they eventually figure out that she was likely murdered on the 14th, but they don't find her body till the 18th. So the timing of this is really weird, but given the fact that this is a warrant that was executed around the time that her body was found, we're talking 5 months ago. So the question begs now whether or not this is still a person of interest for them, because you would think that once the warrant was executed, they would have found the fruits of the crime, because they're asking in the warrant for to seek gun, ammo, gloves, and any evidence. One of the things that they mentioned is a jacket that they had interest in because there was a blood stain on it. What is the result of all that? Did this eliminate him as a suspect, or is he still somewhere on the radar?
Mike King, from this part of the search warrant, I'm going to read a little bit more of it in just a bit, but the thing that struck me is, and I always think of, your podcast, Profiling Evil. This is evil that would take the lives of these 2 women. This veteran law enforcement officer is making a traffic stop and is so unnerved, doesn't want to leave to write the speeding ticket. That tells me volumes about how creepy this guy was.
And I think if you talk to any police officer, they've all probably experienced a similar dynamic where they just have shivers running up and down their spine saying something's not right and I need to keep my eyes on this individual. I had flashbacks as you were reading through that, Vinny, of interviewing a couple of serial killers in particular who would get euphoric, and you use the word, and they use the word in the affidavit, euphoric, feeling. They would get euphoric as they were kind of visualizing and reliving the experience of committing a homicide. Now, this is a couple of days after, if Jason's got the times dialed in right, and he's been, right on the ground there working with the family and with law enforcement. But that is a really peculiar term, and it's something that I've witnessed a number of times where I've seen them, especially if you get a predator who's reliving the experience and talking through the experience. Now, on the flip side, it could be a red herring. I mean, I've been pulled over. I've never been euphoric about it, but my pulse has been running, and I've been dealing with law enforcement my entire life. So it's hard to take that and go too far with it. It's going to be really interesting to see what additional information comes out. And I got to hand it to Sheriff White and his team down there. I worked homicides when I was running cold cases for the Attorney General. I worked homicides with Sheriff White on a number of occasions, and I know that he's very good at what he does. But putting a case like this together really takes a long time, as you well know, Vinny, and we all have to be just a little bit patient when we don't want to be, in hopes that they put all the puzzle pieces together so that it's a case that really sticks and they're able to get a conviction when the day comes.
All right, Mike King, I heard you say you want to hear some more. Let me get to more of this affidavit.
Good, let's do it.
Because there is more, folks. Wait till you hear this. Okay. The subject was asked if he knew his whereabouts for Friday night, Saturday night, or Sunday night. He could not give any times and stated he would travel to a spot that he often slept at as it was away from people. That's creepy. Described the location that he would normally sleep at as 100 to 300 yards up the loop road from the Moab overlook on a dirt road, and that he had left a blanket there. He had no one to corroborate his story or his location. Law enforcement located 2 blankets and a jacket, and they observed what they believed to be blood on the jacket, just as Jason Jensen told us. This location would cause Kylen and Crystal to pass it on their way to their campsite. They've got to go past this location. This location is 8.8 miles via the road from the scene where Kylen and Crystal were found, but is less than 4 miles if a straight path is taken. Marcos Ortiz, ABC4 reporter in Salt Lake City, Utah. I know you've read through this affidavit. What are some of the questions that you have tonight after reading through this?
Well, I agree with you. There's a lot of things when I read through this. It just struck me every time I read one sentence and then another. It was like creepy. This is not normal. And one thing also I might point out that at the bottom of the search warrant, I don't know if you saw this at all, but when they went in to, they wanted to search his car. They were hoping to find a lot of different pieces of evidence that would connect him to the murder, firearms, ammunition, gloves, things of this nature. But when you read the return search warrant, these are the items that, and Mike, you can verify this. The return search warrant is what they actually found, and it wasn't much that they found: 2 cloth hats, 1 long sleeve shirt. So maybe that's the reason why this has taken a little bit longer than people would hope so.
Jason Jensen. Remind us a little bit about the scene where Kylen and Crystal were murdered and how they were murdered.
Sure. This was a dispersed open area campsite where you don't have to pay a fee there, and it's not marked with concrete or anything like that. It's basically the wilderness, and while there's a couple sets of groves of trees there, there's a couple of fire pits there where oftentimes people set up camp there for either the elk season, or they also call it bear camp for when it's not elk season. And, it's like 100 feet to 150 feet off of the main road, the LaSalle Loop Road, where you can see a vehicle there from the main road. But so if you were driving by, if you knew that that's their car, you would know that where they were camping. But it's very serene, it's very quiet, it's off the beaten path. where you don't have to worry about all the Moab visitors coming there for the arches or anything like that, because it's the opposite end of Moab, away from all the national parks.
Mike King, what Jason is telling me, it sounds like it's someone who's a little bit more familiar with the area. Not necessarily one of these drifters that's just flowing through if you're off the beaten path a little bit there.
It really makes you start to wonder if they were targeted and this was fantasized and thought out, or if it was an opportunistic kind of a killing where someone just happened to be at the right spot at the wrong time for this couple. And that's what's really challenging in these kinds of cases. But man, doesn't this make you want to know if they collected that jacket and tested the DNA in that blood and the DNA on the jacket to kind of put two and two together? I hope that that shoe will drop soon too.
Absolutely. Marcos Ortiz from ABC4 out in Salt Lake City. Let me ask you about the community reaction to all of this. If there was a murder like this in my community, and obviously it's different than Moab. Moab is much more beautiful and spread out and is what it is. But how about the community there? Is there any fear that there is some sort of a homicidal maniac out there who hasn't been caught?
I don't sense that they have that fear. But I'll tell you what, they're very interested. This is a small town in southeast Utah. And unlike Salt Lake City, when there's a homicide here, it's a major city. It's the biggest city in Utah. And it just is kind of like you don't have that kind of reaction that you have in a small community. In this town of Moab, what I've been finding out is that people are very interested in this case. I mean, you put something on social media, even a story of this, and you get so much reaction, so many comments from people. I've just never had that kind of reaction from a community. But in reading through some of these threads, I don't sense that they are afraid, that they're fearing that this person is going to strike again. It's almost got to believe that this was a one-time event that happened. And I might want to add something too, that in terms of his campsite. You kind of wonder how long had he been at that campsite, because as you recall from one of the earlier exchanges, I think it was Kylen or either Kylen or Crystal had said that this man was going to go get some clothes and food and be right back. Well, you know, you read the warrant. Where he was at was only 4 miles away if you took a straight shot, or 8 miles by the road. So that kind of falls in place with what we've been hearing lately.
Absolutely. Jason Jensen, I want to get back to that Moonflower Market. Is this the only place in town? Because every story, every person connected, there's always this thread that goes through the Moonflower Market. What is this place, and is it like the only place in town?
No. When it comes to Moonflower, it's more of an organic and like more similar to like a Whole Foods market. There's other markets there. There's a city market, and you know, there's all the convenience stores, but it's a very small town, so they really consider themselves blessed that they would have like a organic food market. But it is that kind of a community, though. They're more organic. They're more into being healthy eaters rather than fast food. There is a McDonald's, but that's about it.
Right in line, though, with the life that Kylen was living, to work there and then to live this van life and enjoy the outdoors. All right, Mike King, Jason Jensen staying with us. Marcos Ortiz from ABC4 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Great to have you on the show tonight. You do amazing work, and we hope to have you on again.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks.